Shane Stacks on the radio.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
Shall we play a game?
Why, yes. I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Getting geeky in Little Rock. And this week, live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening live, what is today, the 15th?
Yep.
At 1 p.m. Central on February 15th. I'm banging around here. We got here at the last second, so I'm still setting up the studio for the Facebook stream. I think I got that done now. But anyway, whether you're listening live on February 15th at 1 p.m. Central on 101.1 FM, The Answer, or if you're listening delayed by podcast or on YouTube or by Krypton Radio, I'm just glad to have you. Another fun show this week. The crew that's on the show today is always a lot of fun, and these guys are also racking up some serious cred and props in their industry that we're about to talk about. So I'm just gonna rip right into it. Joining us today is our comic book creators, Timothy Lim, aka POTUS Thump, the bunny lover, and Mark Pellegrini, a.k.a. Pella Creepy, the horror lover, and Mega Geek Brain. And they are working on their 9th collaborative comic book, which is in crowdfunding now we'll be talking about today. But Tim, are you there? Has Tim called in yet? Okay, he's supposed to be calling in. Tim's not there, but we do have Mark Pellegrini.
Hey, I was happy to be here.
Yeah, I think Tim's Mark's gonna It's been, let me preface, as Mark frantically messages Tim, I texted him about 10 minutes ago with the phone number. And if you need to, Mark, you can go give Zach Tim's phone number and he can call him. But we're going to, today has been crazy. So it's like, I may or may not, and unless there's photographic evidence, nobody can prove it, intentionally run a red light to get to the show on time today. I was talking with Mark, and we've also got friend of the show, Justin Mobley, aka the Mobley Detective Agency, in the studio today. By the way, folks, you can go to the Dave Ellswick Show Facebook page and see the Facebook live stream. Don't go to Shane Plays. Go to the Dave Ellswick Show Facebook page. And there's a live stream of if you want to see it for some reason, if you want to watch us talk at each other through microphones, you can do that. And that stuff gets a lot of views. It blows me away that people want to watch that, but go for it. So you can go to the Dave Ellswick Show Facebook page. Looks like we have Tim now. Tim, do we have you?
You do have me. You have my undivided attention. Undivided attention.
Okay, so as I was trying to explain, I already introduced you. You're fashionably late. See, I introduced you, and they're like, "Where's Tim?" So it heightened the suspense of where Tim is. But yeah, so we've got, and I already introduced you guys that you're on your 9th. You and Mark are on your 9th collaborative book, which we'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, today was crazy getting to the studio. The guy who's supposed to be running the board right now, Steve Marston, because Zach has to go do his super secret Zach stuff, is still stuck in traffic and isn't even here yet. And I was explaining to Mark and Justin, Justin Mobley's in the studio today too. So he's a friend of the show, and he loves y'all's stuff. But anyway, yeah, everywhere I tried to go today to get to the show was like that scene from the Truman Show, which, if you've never seen the Truman Show, I don't have time to set the whole thing up, but let's just say he lives in a controlled environment, but he doesn't know it. And there's one scene where every street he tries to turn down, like 80 cars get in front of him, so he can't go. And that was what it was like getting to the studio today. So and then stuff like this never happens. Like we get in the elevator to hit. I'm trying to hit floor 7, and it won't do. And then we go to the basement. That's never happened to me in 5 years of doing this show. But today, when the clock's ticking and we got about a minute to get in the studio, so it's just been one of those days. But again, unless there's photographic evidence, you can't prove that I ran a red light. And even then, you photoshopped it. That's all I'm going to say. So what was it? I know that you're a geek mega brain, Mark. Was it Bart Simpson used to say you can't prove a thing
I didn't do it. It's like I didn't do it. You can't prove it. I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
So he's
talking
got
really fast,
he's
yeah.
got something that from that Bartman song or whatever.
What did you do this time, you little hoodlum? Whoop, get out of the way!
I didn't do it. Nobody saw me do it. There's no way they can prove anything.
All that's out of the way. Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. So glad to have you. And Justin, I'm pretty sure Muffin was behind some of the shenanigans.
It's possible.
It is possible. You know, I wasn't going to bring this up because Zach, Steve was supposed to be running the show today, but has the Mobley Detective Agency come up with anything on this alleged girlfriend of Zach's?
Not that I know of, but I mean, it's starting to make sense.
Is it?
It's starting to make sense. I mean, Zach's stuck here. And so,
Zach is stuck here. And
Zach is literally standing up and ready to dash out
yeah,
the door.
well,
as
he's
soon
got
as he
somewhere
can.
to get to. And Steve is stuck. Muffin's behind this somehow. And folks, I don't have time to go into the whole Muffin scenario today, but longtime listeners of the show will know that there's a nefarious antagonist, but my arch nemesis. Really,
it's starting to turn out that way.
Yeah,
it really is.
Muffin, a dog we still don't know the species or anything like that. So, okay, Tim, thanks for calling in. Mark, thanks for being here. Justin, as always, great to see you. Here's what I want to do. I got a few different things I want to talk about today. One thing we're going to talk about is, of course, that Tim and Mark have a new collaboration that's in crowdfunding right now called KAMEN America. So what I want to do is I want to give these two guys a chance to kind of give a quick elevator pitch on it. And then we're going to come back to it later in the show. We have a few items that we're going to geek out on. Before then, I want people, because I know there's people who are listening to this either live or by podcast or whatever. The only reason they're listening is because they want to hear about KAMEN America. I get that. So, guys, I guess Tim first and Mark chime in or whatever. Give us the quick rundown on what KAMEN America is, and then we're going to come back to it later in the show.
Sure. So the basic premise of KAMEN America, it's the simple story of the girl next door from Indiana who just dreams about being a fashionista someday. But during a USO tour, she's gifted with some powers that are cosmic in nature, and then suddenly the whole world wants her attention. So she basically has to choose between being a superstar, a super soldier, or a superheroine. And there's a lot of pitfalls that come with that, because when you have all these people vying for your attention for different means, whether that be used as a weapon, whether that be to use as a means of profit, it means that at some point you're confronted with this idea of having to lose your principle along the way. So not only does she have to juggle that, but she has to juggle also fighting giant monsters, and as well as a rival from another country. And so we cover all of that in 56 pages, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep. So the book KAMEN America, just because we're on the radio and you can't see how it's spelled, it's K-A-M-E-N, Kamen, as in for people out there who like Japanese TV shows, Kamen Rider.
Yeah, Kamen Rider.
So it's kind of a spoof on the Japanese tokusatsu genre, Kamen Rider, Ultraman, Power Rangers, Super Sentai, those kinds of shows, but with an American superhero origin story. So we wanted that juxtaposition, KAMEN America, of the Japanese and American superhero styles kind of clashing together. And Tim's art, which is fantastic, is done in sort of a Japanese manga anime style, but with an American superhero flavor to it. And the aesthetic is very much similar to Trigger, which is a Japanese animation studio. They did a recent film, Promare, that was actually released in theaters, and it was out here in theaters in Little Rock not that long ago, and they did shows like Little Witch Academia. And Tim can tell you more about the art and his inspiration for that. Yeah,
the art looks great. If you go, one thing that caught my attention on the Kickstarter page is it just scrolls and scrolls and scrolls and scrolls with examples of art, and I thought that was cool. Because most Kickstarters or Indiegogos or whatever will give you a couple of sample pages and that's it.
Well, that's because they hadn't drawn – most Kickstarters haven't drawn the book yet when they start their campaign, but Tim had finished the book before we even launched the campaign. So pretty much it's in pre-order state right now. If you go on Kickstarter, look up KAMEN America, K-A-M-E-N, America, you're guaranteed the book. It's already done. You just got to pre-order it.
All right. Tim, it sounded like you were going to say something.
No, that's okay. Actually, Mark already covered it. Technically, we're not really in crowdfunding phase. We're in pre-order phase because the books are going to print next week. It's 100% done. And you were mentioning kind of the cascade of art. That's part of the reason why. The other thing, too, is it's kind of deceiving because what I do is I don't want to give away spoilers, so I actually take panels and I just blow them up. And when you do that, you can cover a lot of real estate. So, yes, if you click on the Kickstarter page, you can just scroll through basically a wall of images before you get this text at some point.
Well, it looks great. We will come back. The last part of the show, after the break, last 20, 30 minutes of the show or whatever, we'll talk Kamen America. We'll talk about the comic book collaborations. This is the 9th collaboration, delivered on time, all that good stuff from Tim and Mark. You know, they're definitely building their mark, no pun intended, in the industry. I also wanted to mention, this is, most of the books that you do are sort of political satire, which is fine. I like that. But this book has no real political overtones, right?
No, it is a political book.
Yeah, it's apolitical. I mean, it does have, obviously, it has a moral to it. It does have a story arc and a principal through line, but it's not like our books like Wall Might or Thump, where it's just, a satire of
Right.
current events. That's not what this book is. It's something that we would hope could be read in a vacuum and would be more or less timeless, that anybody could pick up and read any year and enjoy it.
Well, we will definitely return to that topic before the show is over. Got some geeky stuff that I want to cover since then because it will fit in well with our guest. Justin, I did want to ask you, you try to be like, when there's a comic book crowdfunding project that you're anticipating, you try to be first.
Sure.
What happened this time?
Oh, meetings, man.
Oh, really?
Oh, no, life
Meetings?
got in the way. That's not fair.
169.
Oh,
fail.
But you were there.
I was there. Absolutely.
You were first in spirit.
Right. Well, and I've seen some podcasts you guys have been on, pitching this in advance, some kind of funny stories, how you even came upon Kamen America, and it was just kind of a, whoa, we've got to see if this is trademarked and all. And
well, you're number one in enthusiasm. We thank you for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, and I like the work you guys do. I love supporting local talent, so
Yeah.
I'm definitely on
And
board.
not just that, but because you were the first backer on Black Ops, you can tell the audience, whenever you come to conventions, we load you up with so much stuff.
They did. They absolutely did, yeah.
Look at the big brain on Tim, remembering that you were the
Yeah.
first on Black
Yeah.
Ops. Yeah.
No, I have a very good memory in terms of people we see constantly, and things like that stick out in my mind. I mean, like, we literally can count on, maybe with 8 fingers, we can count, like, our regulars who we see all the time. And the danger about it is we give you guys so much free stuff because we're so thankful that when we see you, like, a second time, we're like, I don't know what to give you. Like, you want a sticker?
We buy your loyalty.
You could draw a Tim Lim original on somebody's forehead.
Yeah.
That would be great.
I can. That's actually what I'm going to start doing right now. Is drawing, like, head sketches.
Drawing stuff. All right.
I spent the whole morning drawing head sketches, and so I'm getting kind of good at that.
Oh,
So,
cool.
We'll think of something.
Yeah, that'll be cool. All right. So we will talk more about comic books and crowdfunding and Kamen America before too long, but before then, got some stuff I want to geek on. All right. Got to get right to this. Now, I know Mark hasn't seen the movie yet, but this is a big deal. All right. Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
I can't wait to see it. I'm going to go see it as soon as I get out of here.
All right. Now, it looked like it was doing well. I was on Box Office Mojo.
Number one movie in America.
It is the number one movie in America. Now, is that number one tepidly or number one like?
It went past $21 million, which is more than Birds of Prey made in its opening weekend. So unless it hits like a huge slump next weekend, I'd say it's doing really good.
So yeah, that's the key. And I'm not a Hollywood insider. I don't know how this. There's movies that I think that are financially wildly successful that make like $1 billion that Hollywood says was a failure. I don't know how this stuff works. But a big indication of success is the drop off. So we know it's going to have a big opening weekend, and I'll let Mark set this up because this is right in his heart. People hated the first previews of what the animated Sonic was going to look like. So
that design looked like it just like congealed from our collective nightmares. It was like that's a creepy pasta. That's like Slender Man kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was like this wispy, hairy, weird looking.
His eyes were separated. I mean, Sonic, as you draw him, has like one big eyeball. But it's kind of weird, but it works in a cartoon form. They made his eyes too small and too far apart. Like when they redesigned him, you can't have one big eyeball in a CG model, but they made it close enough that it looked good in CG. They got so when everyone hated that first design on Sonic, Paramount was like, what did we do wrong? We don't understand. So what they did, and this is the reason why I'm going to go see it. The director didn't get mad at the fans. He didn't call people man babies. He didn't say you just don't get it. He said like, oh, we screwed up. How can we fix this? So what he did is he hired Tyson Hesse, and Tyson Hesse is an artist on Sonic the Hedgehog. He's the guy who was the Archie and IDW comic artist. He was the animator for the Sonic Mania, which is a recent video game that had animated cutscenes, and he was the director on that. They got him, an actual Sonic the Hedgehog artist.
You mean they got somebody who was involved in making the property successful?
And
in
they
the
said
movie?
they're like, can you fix this? And he's like, yeah, I draw Sonic for a living. And so he reads and
hold on.
It just so happens I've been waiting on it.
Okay, so I don't understand how Hollywood works, but you think they would reach it. Let me give you a comparison. The Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings, not the Hobbit stuff.
Yeah, the good ones. The
Lord of the Rings. If you watch the special features and stuff, they went and tapped Lord of the Rings artists that had been successful for 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, those people.
And those guys that had been done successful art for Lord of the Rings to help do concept art and so anyway, back to Sonic.
Well, just to go on that, like, why didn't they get Tyson Hesse? Why didn't they get actual artists in the first place? There's a couple reasons. So Paramount and Viacom, for whatever reason, their preferred aesthetic is just ugly. They're the ones who did. I don't know why.
I don't know what you do. Just make it ugly. We'll get you a check.
Is failure.
So the Michael Bay Transformers movies, those ugly robots, that's Paramount produced.
A friend of mine described the Transformers movie designs as Baroque.
They look like
they're weird.
They're piles of shredded metal and broken glass and saw blades. You can't tell one from the other because they're all gray.
But now the Bumblebee movie, they look good.
That's the other thing is that the fifth Transformers movie, The Last Night, like that one was it wasn't a box office bomb because thank you China, but but it did not do well. Yeah, it did not do well. And so when they did Bumblebee, they were like, all right, let's try and. It was originally going to be a prequel, but then they said, let's make it a
fan
reboot.
Service, which I hate that word.
I know.
Let's give the fans something they like.
Well, let's just like make it look like Transformers.
Right.
And so Bumblebee was better received, but Paramount's other thing, like they like ugly, so they made those awful Ninja Turtles movies where the Ninja Turtles look like
those
Shrek.
Weird mouths and
they have Shrek heads and they're all hideous.
Yeah.
They like, oh, the turtles live in the sewers, so they must be covered in like brown gunk, right?
Yeah.
So they all look like they're gross to look at. You feel filthy looking at those things. And so Sonic.
Well, they are turtles.
Yeah, right. Because turtles.
You're not supposed to like them.
Hey, turtles are clean. And then Sonic the Hedgehog. Like when you look at Paramount's Transformers and Paramount's Ninja Turtles, that ugly Sonic the Hedgehog was just the next evolution of that because that's just what Paramount likes. And then it finally backfired on them, and people had had enough. And they delayed the movie. It was supposed to be released last November. They delayed it till February to redo everything.
To love on the fans.
Right? But that's the other thing is that they actually did that. They took a gamble, a potential financial loss.
Right.
They did not do what like everybody when people complained about how bad the trailer was for the 2016 Ghostbusters movies, Paul Feig and all those people.
They doubled down on you guys.
They doubled down like you're all
just
man
idiots.
babies and misogynists and sexist and you're all terrible people. Our movie's great. The movie was not great. It was awful. But with Sonic the Hedgehog, the director and the voice of Sonic, Ben Schwartz, like all of them said, like, we'll fix it. You know, we understand. We'll fix it.
And then they put out the design, the redesign. People liked it.
People loved it.
And so what's interesting is this is why it's going to have a big opening weekend. Okay, one, Sonic is a known franchise. Mm-hmm. My kid, who's 6, instantly liked the original Sonic. When I showed him the original Sonic, he plays it on like the Wii Classics or whatever. And I've got the Sega. Yeah. The little mini Sega now that is preloaded and it's got stuff on there. So he's instantly like, I like Sonic. It's a cool looking fast hedgehog thing, right? So it's got built-in kid appeal already, but there's a lot of people who have said, okay, they listened, So let's reward by going to see the movie.
Exactly. You want to reinforce the behavior you want to see again. It's almost like talking to Hollywood studios is almost like raising children. They do something good, you want to reward them. They do something bad, you want to punish them. So the studio went out of its way to fix something, listen to fan demand, and respond to it professionally and courteously. It's like, just go see the movie on principle and anything else.
Well, that's why we know it's going to have a big opening weekend. Then the quality of the movie, whether it's a good entertainment product, will show in how much of a drop does it get, what kind of leg, no pun intended, what kind of legs does it have? Does it ring up the box office?
Oh, that
ring
just
up?
happened.
Yeah. So Tim,
It's not the end of the show yet.
Timothy Lim,
Yes.
are you going to go see Sonic on principle?
No, because I never complained about it to begin with.
Okay.
Well, Tim's not a Sonic fan. You didn't have a Genesis in the 90s.
Hey,
you had a
Steve,
Super
can you
Nintendo.
turn Tim up just a little bit, buddy? I don't know. He sounds a little low to me, but maybe that's just my personal headphones.
What I was going to say was I've never even played Sonic the Hedgehog before.
Oh, really?
The most I did when that thing came out was I just kind of laughed at it because it just had a goofy appearance.
It looked weird. I'm not a Sonic fan, but I was like, what roadkill are they serving up here? So
yeah, but I do say that the people who were complaining about it and were legitimately mad, and then the fact that they changed it, I feel like if you are of principle, then you're almost obligated.
You should. I agree.
obligated
If
to
you
go see the
raised a
movie.
ruckus and then they,
And I mean, it just helps that the movie, I think, and honestly, I think it looks good. Maybe you have to be someone who likes Sonic the Hedgehog to think it looks good from those trailers. But now, Jim Carrey as a human being, as a person, I hate his guts.
he's Dr. Robotnik,
yeah,
right?
but that's the thing.
Yeah.
He's playing Dr. Robotnik. But even if I don't like Jim Carrey as a person, just from those trailers, he's owning it. He's absolutely nailing. So Dr. Robotnik is supposed to be this goofy comedy relief kind of villain who's very exuberant and nutty. And Jim Carrey's, in everything I've seen in the trailer, he's just absolutely tapping that.
Right.
He is doing that, and I want to see that.
Yeah, no, you can separate the actor from, and I have no problem with Jim Carrey. I mean, he's whatever, but there are actors that I personally don't like stuff they say or do in real life, but I can appreciate it a performance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, what are you going to do? All right, so here's some information from Box Office Mojo, and if people are listening to the podcast version of the show, or Krypton Radio or whatever, there will be show notes up at shaneplays.com. And so the link to KAMEN America, Kickstarter, and all this other stuff we're talking about will be up here. And they Box Office Mojo took a page from my book, or maybe I took a page from their book. It says Sonic the Hedgehog rings up 21 million on Friday, headed towards a 60 million plus. That's a big open. It's 4-day. What is it? President's Day weekend. So I think for a lot of people, Monday's a day off, so it's kind of a holiday weekend. Opened Thursday, right? A lot of Friday movies open Thursday night now. 60 million is a good number in February,
especially for this isn't an MCU movie or a Star Wars movie. It wasn't going to make. It's not a $1 billion movie.
Right.
So 60 million opening weekend for Sonic the Hedgehog for a video and released in February. I mean, February is not May. It's not July. It's not August.
Right.
This is kind of the dead zone for movies. So for it to be doing this well, a delayed movie that had weird, that had a very odd beginning. To come out and do this well, it's impressive.
Hopefully it'll tell Hollywood, look, you could be creative and you could do quote unquote your own thing, but if you want the fans to show up, there's boundaries.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, in Hollywood or filmmakers, you can make whatever movie you want. It's a free country, whatever you want to call it. But don't be surprised if you go too far off the reservation and everyone pans it and nobody shows up.
Right.
It's not on the fans. That's on you to put out an because movies, a lot of people lose track of this, especially wide release movies, not these little art house, whatever, which I like art house movies, whatever. But if you put out a major release, it's an entertainment product. I don't care about your art. I may later discuss artistic qualities of your movie or whatever, but it is first and foremost an entertainment product. There's investors. You're putting stuff out so people will pay money to see it. Okay? End of story. And if you alienate the fans intentionally and continue to alienate them, it can hurt your bottom line. So there you go. I want to give credit. Steve Marston made it.
I did.
Zach
Just
is
barely.
usually running our board as our engineer, but Steve is here today. Zach had something to do. So you got caught in the same traffic I did.
Okay,
I
so-
barely made it.
Okay, I did too. Of course, obviously I was late,
Yeah.
but I got here. I left my house maybe about 3 or 4 minutes behind the schedule, but I thought I'd be
Right.
okay.
That's kind of how it was.
You know-
Because I give myself right.
I get to the River Bridge, the 30 River Bridge.
Yes, sir.
Almost stopped.
I saw that in time to divert through downtown.
See, I did.
But even then, I kept running into little weird. Like they tried to take us to the basement today, Steve.
I have a story about that too. But then I get on 630.
Yeah.
630, I almost, because of all the construction, almost get to an accident. Not once, but twice.
Wow.
Trying to get here. And so I thought, okay, I might as well just be a little late and be here safe. You know?
Yeah. Well,
But
no, that's
the
good.
elevator story I heard you telling, that happened to me one other time too. I got on the elevator and I pushed floor 1 from the 7th floor to go down. And I got all the way down to 1, and before the doors could open, it took me all the way back up to 8.
Weird. I don't know. Today was just one of those days.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, would you say? Let's say you don't even care about the Sonic controversy.
I don't care about the Sonic controversy.
Okay. But you and your son.
Yeah.
Is this a movie that you would go see or rent?
Probably, my son probably, yes, for sure.
Right.
I would probably not have had it not been for Jim Carrey because he's the big star power that I know. I've seen the trailers. I've seen the interviews that he has on for the publicity of it. So it interests me, and I know a little bit about the character because Sonic's a little bit...
Yeah,
past
Sonic
my
is
time,
not my generation.
it's not
Sonic
my generation.
Is just after my generation.
He's my generation.
Me too.
90s
Yeah,
kids.
well, he's straight up in Mark's wheelhouse and Justin's wheelhouse. So, you know what I've come to realize, Steve? I think maybe you can appreciate this because we're closer in generations. I think we may be the same generation, Steve.
Oh, yeah. Gen Xers.
Gen Xers. These video game characters like Mario and Sonic are the Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck of that generation. They're more important to those generations than. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
So that just dawned on me a few years ago. That's the power that these video game characters have. They're like the Looney Tunes that we grew up with.
Oh, I agree.
And Looney Tunes is still out there. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but see, they started jacking around with the Looney Tunes too, making having Bugs Bunny dress up as a hip hop guy or whatever.
Right. Space Jam.
Well, yeah, all that kind of stuff. It's
Extreme.
like Bugs Bunny and
most
Elmer Fudd. All those guys are
people-
cool anyway. You don't have to mess with them.
Most people from the 90s generation, most of them, their main exposure to Looney Tunes is probably Space Jam.
I know.
It's-
And I didn't hate Space Jam. I don't mean that.
I didn't say it. I never
But
saw
it was the start. It was the start of making Bugs Bunny, kind of bringing him into the 90s and Daffy Duck and all of them. It's like, why? You don't need to. They're classic the way they are. Let's just leave them alone.
Wait, what were you going to say, Mark?
No, I was saying that Space Jam is. I'm a '90s kid, but I didn't like Space Jam, and I'm almost kind of baffled that it has the fan following that it does. Like people keep calling for a Space Jam 2 starring whatever basketball star is popular right now. I'm like, no,
please
we don't need it.
All right, so Tim, I want to make sure because I know you're floating there in phone land. What's your take on? I mean, do the video game characters like the Nintendo and do they mean more to you than like Bugs Bunny?
No, well, yes and no. The ones that mean more to me are the ones who are obviously from my generation. So I had a Nintendo growing up. I had, I think the last Nintendo I had was a Super Nintendo. So characters like Samus Aran or Link or Mario, they mean more to me because obviously that's what I grew up with. But I think the thing that astonishes me the most is obviously like Mark and I are close in age. We're in our mid-30s. And I find it very fascinating that, for example, my in-laws, my brother-in-law, he's like, kind of this good old boy from a rural part of Arkansas, and he grew up with like Dragon Ball, and I just kind of giggled at that because I'm like, I was almost like in high school when that came out, and by then a lot of people just kind of outgrew it. Like anime was just not a thing when I was in high school, and he was like, no man, and this guy's like, he's in his 20s. And he's like, I loved all of that stuff. Like, I love Dragon Ball. And
he's out there. Yeah, right. Which seems like it wouldn't be the case, but that just shows you the reach of these characters.
Right. Yeah. And the reason why, like Mark can identify with this too, is because it's not like you had to have privilege to access that stuff, but it wasn't easy. I mean, like, anime was a hard thing to get. You had to either tune in at the right time on the right channel, or you had to pay like $40 at a Suncoast and buy a DVD with only like 2 episodes.
Vegeta has no sympathy because it made you stronger.
Right.
So here's the thing. I have a quick note on this, and Zach was here for this when we did this, but he's gone now. He's not doing the show today, or I'd get him to chime in. I went with Zach and a couple other guys that I worked with to see the new Broly movie. Mm-hmm. And I have never seen a movie cross racial and socioeconomic grounds as that movie.
Yeah.
It was packed to the gills, and it was a true mix of people. It really struck me.
Dragon Ball Z, what I don't think people understand about Dragon Ball Z is that it isn't just Japan and America. It's a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
In fact, it was released
even in America, everybody loves it. You understand what I'm saying? It crosses boundaries.
But it was released in other countries when they started when Toei in Japan started distributing it internationally. They didn't go straight to America. We kind of passed on it the first time around. They went to other countries. So it had a huge following in Mexico and Latin America long before it even reached the U.S., and so it is tremendous in Mexico and south of the border. I remember watching, before the episodes made it to America, I remember watching it on Telemundo in Spanish because I was trying to stay ahead. And so, it's tremendous. Like, it has a huge, like, African-American following.
It's huge.
Very popular with them.
There's something about, I think, not just the animation style, but the story of Son Goku. Like, you've taught me, Justin, a lot about the background of and some other folks, but like this whole Son Goku was also kind of a Chinese thing, and there's something about Dragon Ball that just appeals to everybody on a deeper level than just enjoying a cartoon show.
Everybody but Tim.
Well, I'll tell you, my friend. Now the animation is striking. Don't get me wrong. I lived in Japan for 2 years when I was in the military, and
I did not know that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, from 91 to 93, I lived in Misawa, Japan, which was northern Japan. And even though I lived on base, I could get Japanese TV and I would flip through it. And there were 2 animes that caught my eye that I would watch, even though I didn't have a clue what was going on because I didn't speak Japanese. One of them was Ranma 1/2.
Okay.
And it took me about 10 episodes to realize that if they changed form when they fell in water.
One character.
Yeah. So it took me a while to figure that out. But I loved the style of it. Whatever. The other one was Dragon Ball. Because I had watched a lot of what I call Japanese animation in the 80s. Star Blazers and Robotech and
Voltron.
Captain Harlock and all that stuff, Voltron. And Dragon Ball looked completely different. And it was just like bombastic and crazy. And so it caught my eye. And now, over the past few years, I've started catching up with Dragon Ball, and I love the story and the characters. So anyway, okay, enough on Dragon Ball and all that. I think we were talking about characters that appeal to people in each generation. Wanted to briefly talk about, and I'm on Box Office Mojo, another thing I wanted to point out, Sonic got an A cinema score from people who've gone to see it. So that's good.
Yeah.
I think it's going to have legs.
Have you looked at Rotten Tomatoes by chance on that?
No.
It's another one of those where the critics are kind of putting it around,
but everyone loves
60% or so, and the audience is putting it around 80. So, yeah.
This makes me want to see it. I probably will not go to the theater, but I will rent it with Justice, my son. Okay, so Tim, what is your take? And try to keep it without too much explosions. What happened with Birds of Prey?
I honestly don't know because I haven't been keeping up with it, but I have been keeping up with kind of the reactions to it. I didn't even know it came out last week, but let's. I can't help but discuss politics, so I'm going to keep it kind of light.
Okay,
but I mean,
that's fine.
You did have them saying, like, especially like Ewan McGregor. He was like, "No, this is a movie that is by feminists, and it's basically for feminists, and all the toxic masculine white males just,
Well, that's the case. Is that the movie? Because I've been trying to be fair-minded based on the trailers. Well, and yes, it's primarily a female cast, but is it like...
That's the thing, is you have to see the movie to find out if all that marketing about it being anti-toxic masculinity.
Right.
But no one's going to go see that movie because of that marketing.
Right.
So it's like that's what happened with the Lego Movie 2. Was that the director was saying that the Lego Movie 2 was supposed to be about toxic masculinity and putting men in their place and girl power. That's the thing. Yeah, he wanted, as long as he didn't know what toxic masculinity was, he was just doing
There's
speaking
a difference
points.
between masculinity and toxic masculinity.
So even though I liked the Lego Movie 1, I didn't go see Lego Movie 2 because of all that marketing. But then I eventually watched it online, and the narrative of the Lego Movie 2 was siblings should get along.
Right.
It wasn't about boys versus girls. It wasn't about toxic masculinity. It was about an older brother learning to share his toys with his little sister, and then playing together is more fun than fighting over toys. That was kind of the...
Which is a dynamic among siblings since the history of siblings.
They had marketed the movie that way, as that being the theme. Because Lego Movie 2 didn't do well, by the way. It didn't flop, but it underperformed tremendously.
It was not as good. The Lego Movie 1 was a joyous, fun movie.
I love that one.
Lego Movie 2 was a decent movie, but it didn't have that same whatever.
That's the thing, is they almost intentionally mismarketed it to try and bring in that woke crowd, and it hurt the movie. When if they had been honest about it, they would have done better.
That's the problem when you market on a hashtag.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's two sides to that coin, though. For example, it's at the tip of my brain, Mark, but there was something that you and I both watched recently where we were like, that wasn't bad. And the entire reason we had never seen it, like in its original form, was because we were told by, and it's funny because we were told by people on quote unquote our side that it was like, no, this movie is awful. Like, don't watch it. It's, it's a feminist, whatever. And so we never watched it until like it came on. I can't remember if it was like Disney Plus or if it was on some other streaming service. But we were like, what the heck were they talking about? Like, this wasn't that bad. So, But it's funny because it shows that there are two forms of marketing: the marketing coming from the studios and the marketing coming from fans. A lot of fans who have a reason to monetize grievance, and either way, it can really hurt your product because guys like us. We take all of that into consideration. It's like, you know what? If this is true, I'm not going to watch it.
Well, that's why. I'm not. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tim. I cut you off right there at the end.
Nothing. I was just saying you can miss out on some gems if that's the case.
Oh, you can. That's why. And I'm not saying I'm above it all. I mean, I'm a person and I kvetch and listen to people. But I try to just dismiss all that and try to watch stuff on its own merit or read stuff on its own merit. But occasionally, if it's universally panned or universally praised, that may influence me. The thing with Birds of Prey for me was I like a Harley Quinn character. I thought that in the expanded version of Suicide Squad movie, all the addition of the Joker and Harley Quinn stuff made it better. Their sort of Bonnie and Clyde relationship. Margot Robbie does an interesting Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn is one of the few characters in the past 20 years that is really, you don't see those huge characters gain a life of their own and become phenomenons out of comic books as often as you used to. She's one of them. So I didn't not want to see Birds of Prey because it was an all-female cast. I could care less, whatever. You could tell any movie you want with an all-male or all-female cast or whatever. The trailer didn't look good to me. That's the main reason I didn't want to go see it. The only thing in the entire trailer that I liked was the hyena in the bathtub, and that's it. The rest of it did not appeal to me whatsoever. But I did expect the movie to do better than it did. So they've already changed the name.
Yeah, they're calling it Harley Quinn Birds of Prey instead of just Birds of Prey and that stupid long name.
Yeah, that's another thing. The Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn does not appeal to me. I'm sorry, it doesn't.
I didn't even know they were calling it that.
Yeah, maybe I'm a cis male or whatever, but it just didn't appeal to me. But now it's Harley Quinn : Birds of Prey. All right, people are giving it. The critics like it. People are giving it a B+, but for whatever reason, people aren't going out to see it.
It's underperforming. And I mean, so that's what goes back to what we're talking about. I mean, you can just go online and look up on all these articles on Birds of Prey, and it's just nothing but the same thing they did with the Charlie's Angels movie that nobody went to see, where it's like, hey, white males, don't go see this movie. It's not for you. This is girl power.
Is that even? See, I didn't even see that.
I know, and people didn't go see it. And that's why Sonic is... Honestly, there was an internet rivalry between Birds of Prey and Sonic the Hedgehog in between the two movies, which is crazy. I know it sounds insane.
Okay. It's like,
I'm listening.
But the reason this happened is because they had two completely different marketing tactics.
Right.
Birds of Prey was telling people not to go see the movie if you're a certain gender, sex, or skin color. Sonic the Hedgehog was like, everybody, please see our movie. We're begging you. We changed it. We made it better. Please see our movie. We want you. And it's like night and day, and that's kind of why it was why that rivalry was created. And I'd rather go see the Sonic movie.
Well, it looks like Sonic's winning. So I got to move us on because I got to get a break in, and we got to talk about Common America. I want to make sure to talk more about that. And I guess one thing, I like speedsters. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious in the movie if he's going to be an actual speedster, like a Flash speedster.
It looks like it from the trailer.
Okay, I gotta chop that though. Super quick news item. We can only spend a minute on this, and then we got to get to a break. We've got the cast for the Netflix He-Man announced.
Oh, I've read that.
There's some good voice actors in here. First, right out the gate, Mark Hamill as Skeletor is genius.
Yes, he played a character called the Skeleton King on a show called Monkey Force Go or whatever. So he's pretty much already played Skeletor.
He's already. Well, I'll tell you, Mark Hamill. I actually have more appreciation for him as a voice actor than his Star Wars role. He's amazing as a voice actor. We've got there's some other big names in here now. Harley Quinn Smith, who is
Kevin Smith's
daughter. She's playing a role. That's not a surprise because he's leading this thing up, right? Kevin Conroy is Merman.
I'm interested in how he's going to play that because that's not what Merman sounds like. Merman sounds like he's drowning. Yeah.
Could you see like a Batman with a blah, 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 blah. So, and then you've got Tony Todd as Scareglow.
Now that one I'm excited because that's going to be a really spooky voice from a spooky character.
Justin Long, some people may or may not know, is Roboto. Alicia Silverstone. There's Queen Marlena. Okay. There's some other big names. Henry Rollins is Triclops.
But he's been doing a lot of voice acting.
Has he? This is great. Okay, I can't. Anyway, go. That excites me. These are some good.
As long as it's not made by the same people who made the Netflix She-Ra series, then there might be a chance for it.
No, I think He-Man will be muscles and not androgynous.
I hope so.
Okay, all right. So, although I will say, in defense of She-Ra, they said they made it for a certain age group, and among that age group, it's performed well. Okay, and I'll just say that.
Right.
I'm not, but it's not my She-Ra.
Right, yeah.
But now, I was never a big She-Ra fan back in the 80s, although I was a He-Man. Okay, I got to get us to a break, man. We got to talk Common America. Steve, get us to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini about their new comic book, Common America.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today. Are you a fan of thrilling adventure, daring suspense, and just a touch of romance? Cursova has you covered. Since 2016, Cursova has been publishing the very best in contemporary fantasy and science fiction, retro pulp, and for you D&D gamers, Appendix N style fiction. Based in Little Rock, you can pick up their flagship magazine locally or at Michael Tierney's The Comic Book Store on Treasure Hill Road or Collector's Edition on JFK in North Little Rock. Swing by one of Michael's stores and pick up an issue or find them on Amazon. CIRSOVA, doesn't start with a K, it starts with a C. CIRSOVA, Cursova Magazine. Check them out today. I want to go ahead and throw out some love to Game Goblins. Some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer of Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40k, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at GameGoblins.com. That's 501-224-GAME or GameGoblins.com. Conveniently located 1121 South Bowman, right on the corner of Bowman and Canis in West Little Rock, and staffed by friendly employees, Game Goblins has expanded their store size, and there is plenty of room for exciting inventory and tables for play space. You'll like that space because Game Goblins has gaming events every day of the week. For all of your gaming needs, I heartily recommend Game Goblins. Make sure to check out their customer loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. Game Goblins earns your business and keeps it. First-time customers, mention Shane Plays and receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Tell them Shane Plays sent you. And folks, if you do visit any of my sponsors, please tell them that you hear about them on the show. That helps them know that their advertising money and the relationship we've built is time and money well spent. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/SciFi patreon.com/Shane Plays.
Shane Stacks on the radio.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Okay, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. A couple of quick items here, and then we're going to continue talking with comic book creators Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini about their newest collaboration, KAMEN America, which is crowdfunding, even as we speak. Doug Gillum on Twitter, thanks for the shout out on Twitter, Doug. He tweeted out and said the Bunny Squad is on Shane Plays right now. So, and that's, of course, Tim's massive love of bunnies and anything that's soft and fluffy. Tim loves it. So,
well, I want to shout out back to Doug Gillum because he's another one of those customers that we see all the time, and we can't not give him enough swag whenever we see him. So, hey, Doug, how's it going?
Cool. Yeah, Doug's a big supporter of the show. I really appreciate him. Also, got a question. Had a message come in, asked me what branch of service I was in when I was talking about Japan, because they almost got stationed in Misawa as well. I was in the Air Force for 9 years, from 90 to 99. Some really quick show notes here. If you're listening to the show by like podcast or on Krypton Radio or YouTube, one of the other ways it goes out, there will be show notes up at shaneplays.com. That's ShanePlays.com. Not last week's show, 2 weeks ago, the last show we had is out there, and that was with a D&D creator, or one of the people that were there at the beginning of D&D, Stephen R. Marsh. That was a great show. Podcast does go out on the blog, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, YouTube, and more. And you probably hear on the commercials, I have a Patreon and all that. If people support the Patreon, I love it. I also have sponsors. I appreciate them very much. One thing you can do is go to like iTunes and leave a review. Leave a good review of the show, and that helps me tremendously. So if you would consider doing that, I appreciate it. And last but never ever least, Shane Plays is carried on Krypton Radio. Krypton Radio is sci-fi for your Wi-Fi, KryptonRadio.com. And we tried to get him on the air, but we weren't able to do it spontaneously. Happy birthday to the man, the myth, the legend, Dave Ellswick, who is the reason.
Happy birthday,
yeah,
Dave.
happy birthday, Dave.
Woo, happy birthday.
Woohoo! Who is he's the reason I'm a radio. Okay, guys, we got about 7 minutes, and I'm going to have to cut some of that for the bad joke of the week, because that just has to happen. So let's talk a little bit more about KAMEN America and the crowdfunding. So we kind of teased people earlier in the show, if they tuned in late, what it is. It's sort of a apolitical, you said girl next door, kind of gets superpowers and has to fight monsters. It's sort of a fusion of...
well, it's also kind of about... So there's, once she gets her powers and becomes kind of a celebrity, it's all these different agencies pulling her in different directions, trying to influence her and take advantage of her and tell her, you should be this thing or you should be that thing. And she has to figure out for herself, what she actually is or what she's always been all along. And that's kind of the moral through line of the story.
So she just got, like a good hero's journey, she discovers who she is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, very cool. It's of course written by you, Mark. The art is by Tim. And then there's like a cover and a pinup by, who are these artists? I was reading something on...
I'll let Tim answer.
Yeah. No, I think I have it here. Who the heck is Cute Sexy Robots? What is that about?
Yeah.
All right, guys. It says the book has covers with artwork from two leading comics professionals, a front cover with colors by Udon legend Ginzo Man, and a back cover by, folks, I just report it, I don't make those, Cute Sexy Robots. And then there's a supplemental pinup by Patriotica cover artist Sasha Perdigao is in the book as well. And this is, again, the 9th collaborative book between Tim and Mark. And this stuff is now being done under the Iconic Comics. That's not a label. I can't remember exactly. How do you describe Iconic Comics? It's more of a marketing or a publishing house, or...
It is kind of an imprint or a publishing house, because obviously we're the first book that he's done. It's a friend of mine who actually runs Bell County Comic Con here in Texas. But what he's looking to do is he's looking to get more people who are U.S. based, who have solid crowdfunders, and do their fulfillment for them. So there's a couple of people who might be joining on later on this year. I know like the one that's on the forefront are the Punchline guys for their fulfillment. They haven't pulled the trigger on that yet or not, but that offer is still there. And there's a couple of other guys too who I don't think I'm at liberty to discuss.
Okay.
But like I said, we needed to publish under something, and he definitely wants to get into the kind of the not crowdfunding, but the fulfillment model, because it's good for his business, because it means that at Bell County Comic-Con he can actually have convention materials there that are comics related, and what best about it is it's completely made in the USA. Mark and I live here, we print here, we ship here, we fulfill here.
I love it. Okay, so another thing, this is your 9th book together. This is your 5th crowdfunding campaign. All of your crowdfunding campaigns have been successful and have delivered on time.
Early.
Early. So you're developing, that reputation there. Now, one thing, and I can't spend a lot of time on this, a minute or less, this is the first time you've done it on Kickstarter. So just for the people out there who are curious about how to crowdfund, was there, what was the decision on Kickstarter versus Indiegogo?
Oh my gosh, we could spend a whole episode on that, but I'm going to keep it very brief.
Yeah.
What it boiled down to was all the creators that we're friends with were saying, Tim, you have to go on Kickstarter. I'm just telling you that there is a market there that is non-Indiegogo. They are mutually exclusive. There is a little bit of crossover, but it's a whole different platform. And finally, what I did was I went to some consumers, particularly like Wes underscore TC from Thinking Critical, and I said, hey, you're a consumer, not a creator. I need you to make the final decision. Should I go to Kickstarter or not? And he didn't even think about it. He said, yes, because I know for a fact that people only buy there. And I can't sing their praises enough between guys like John Delarose and Preston Poulter and Wes, that they were 150% right.
Well, you've already funded, right? You funded
immediately.
It was
crazy. We funded immediately within under 2 hours with no trailers or anything.
Well, that's the thing. I was like, they're already funded, and they haven't really chattered much on Twitter about it yet. And this thing is already funded, so congratulations, folks. Just because something's funded doesn't mean that. I mean, the more you support, of course, the more books sell, the more likely these guys are to make more books and all that. So just because it's funded doesn't mean it's over by any means. That's the basic minimum they needed to get the book out the door.
Correct. And not just that, but one thing that Mark and I have always said from the get-go is we always take the money left over and we put it to new projects, which is how I can get a book 100% done, because I'm essentially living off of the funds from the previous book. But one thing we're doing with this campaign, we're not even going to tell anyone until the book actually arrives at your door. We were actually able to save a lot of money through our printer, and I think everyone will be very happy with what they get in the mail, because we're going to plus the quality of the book, and we're just not going to tell anyone so that everyone's surprised when they open it.
Now, is this going to be square bound? Like Black Ops 2 was square bound, wasn't it? I love that square binding. Yeah. Okay. Another reason I personally like Kickstarter, I like Indiegogo and Kickstarter. There's good projects on both. I like with Kickstarter, they don't collect the money until the campaign's over. So I can budget for it, and I can pledge, and then make a note. This is going to be, and I can plan for my budget, because sometimes Indiegogo's like, I want to support you guys right now to help the hype train, but I have to wait until I have the money. So yeah, that's something. All right, we got about a minute left, so I got to do this real quick. Mark, give me just real quick, what's something in this book that they're going to like?
They're going to love the art.
Yeah.
It's Tim developed a new style, and it's the best he's ever drawn.
Okay. Kamen America on Kickstarter. KAMEN.
Yep.
America. 2 different words. All right. Bad joke of the week. Mark, I picked this one out for you.
Oh, okay. Let me steal myself.
Yeah, here it goes. How does Sonic knock on a door?
How?
With Knuckles. Oh, we got it. Okay, no, we're not done yet. What if Knuckles isn't around?
What does he do?
He rings the doorbell. Yes! All right! Woohoo!
I don't want to see the movie anymore all of a sudden.
Tim, Mark, congratulations with already funding, and I hope for continued success. Justin, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Joe.
Steve, thanks for running the board. Folks, we'll catch you next time on Shane Plays.
Are you in charge here?
Yes, I am. Wrong. I'm in charge. Is Major
I'm in charge. You've never seen anything like this before.
It says on the top banana, in a world full of hungry little monkeys. Allow me to clarify.
In a sequentially ranked hierarchy based on level of critical importance, the disparity between us is too vast to quantify. Agent Stone?
The doctor thinks you're basic. I'm initiating a sweep sequence.
10 miles in every direction should suffice.
Is he still looking at me funny?
Yes, he is. Tell him to stop or I'll pull up his search history.
Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.